Hi, I'm Luciana Rondolini, an Argentinian artist. I was born in 1976 in Buenos Aires. I studied graphic design and arts almost at the same time in Buenos Aires. And I continued studying in different art clinics with great artists like Carlos Hofmann, Elsa Soibelman, and Fabian Burgos. Studying graphic design gave me the tools to understand the power of the image and who generates it. So after working for other people for a while, I decided to put my creativity to the service of art. I am interested in using the same language with which capitalism sells us products that we do not need, to reflect on the way in which mass media influences human relations and behavior within the consumer world. I want to use that language to transmit a discourse that disputes, in that scenario, the production of senses of power. I guess my childhood and background influenced my work. I come from a middle-class family. I studied in a bilingual school where English was taught. I was born during the last military dictatorship and grew up in the years of democratic return in the 80s. I lived my adolescence during the establishment of neoliberalism as a political economic current in the following decade. At that time, the power of the media began to emerge as one of the central forces for the formation of public opinion, at the same time that companies were privatized and the local market began to compete with imported products. Since then, I believe that everything has intensified. The advertising industry has grown to the point of transforming the interest of the ruling class into the general interest, ideologically guiding the masses and hiding corporate abuses, environmental disasters, and social injustice perpetrated by the system. My biggest influence is culture and its advertising images. Images that sells us a way of living full of joy and happiness, great images with magnetic people, tasty food, luxury products, cheerful colors, funny faces, great music, love and young promises. I believe pop art is the movement that influenced me the most. I'm interested in the ambiguity that his images handle, to the extent that it is not known if it's a criticism or a praise for capitalism. I think that is related with this tricky way in which publicity has of not telling you the truth by avoiding to show you the whole story, where much of the real life is left outside this great bubble of joy. I'm not only questioning the way mass media influences us, but also the way we choose to perceive reality. I have been thinking about how we have trouble accepting the world as it is, and the false perception of reality is not only propitiated by the media, but often originated in ourselves, who often prefer self-deception. I think that we aspire to control and decorate reality by falling into ignorance, rejection and denial, and I also like about pop art that I like the search for what is popular, the proposal that we can all have access to art, and the questioning it raises about the value of the work of art according to its origin. I find it interesting to reflect on high and low art, the use of noble materials and how the artistic context legitimizes the work. Fortunately, new technologies are a tool so that more people have access to art and can produce work. Since the pandemic, I have been interested in the quality of the products we feed ourselves with. It was then when I began to investigate the weight of production, the origin of the food and its composition, and I realized that many of these products we eat are very harmful to our body, even though they are constantly advertised in the media. I found in snack packages a good example of a product that is practically poison for our body, and at the same time very desired and popular, whose packaging is very attractive. Painting these plastic bags is a way of nullify what these empty packages represent and turn them into a reusable element due to their accessibility, since I collect them from the streets, and the possibility of using them as a canvas, giving them a second chance. Working with what has been discarded is a kind of recycling through art that moves oil painting away from its traditional scope. My practice is linked to the appropriation of images and the use of ready-mades. I think that the biggest challenge of being an artist is to keep on working and believing in what you do through the years. Many of the time I have worked in something else to have the money to work on my pieces of art. My advice to my younger self would be: art is bigger than circumstances and people, so don't let them disturb you. Also, art doesn't need to give you money. If it does, great, but don't speculate with that by doing art. When I started working in art, I experimented with ice, flowers, rotten fruits, and soil, mostly. I was interested in materials that change over time. One of my works is called Tiffany and consists of a series of sculptural objects made with fruits covered with plastic gems that look like jewelry and rotate over the days. The old, the ugly, the sick do not appear in advertising. Any sign of senility or decomposition, odor and color is a symptom of decadence. I find it interesting to confront the viewer with the experience of this process of media transformation. I seek to create the contradiction that arises when the attraction and repulsion appear in equal measure. My interest lies in the analysis of the value that is given to objects and people. which is determined by the patterns of behavior of this society that is increasingly prone to disposable relationships and forgetting the real value of objects. I love music and made a few songs with my computer where I wrote the lyrics and sang. One of these songs appeared on an album released by Otras Formas record label, whose objective is to disseminate the music of visual artists. You can find it on Spotify. Also, I have always designed the sound of the videos I made. I think that the barriers between different types of art often dissolve in the artistic process. The best reaction someone has had to one of my artworks was to be completely angry about this work. It happened in an art fair in Buenos Aires called Arte Va, in the frame of a Petrobras prize, where one of my pieces was an ice sculpture of a giant popsicle that melted during the fair. I was near this old man that was very angry about my piece, and of course he didn't know I was the person who made it. He didn't understand why it was considered art. Also, the year before at the same fair, a Brazilian woman bought a banana peel I made covered in plastic gems, and she was worried that the work was too expensive to not be allowed through airport custom. I find both situations very hilarious. I think that the worst reaction someone can have is indifference. I secretly hope that people have the same feeling that made me do my art pieces. Sometimes people interpret some of my works by describing them through words better than I would have been able to talk about. There is one text that summarizes very well the essence of my work. It was written by Beatrice Vignoli, and I will read some parts. It says, "Whoever gets near the cube to contemplate its window and also goes to the back store will be able to smell decaying fruits. There is a contradiction between facade and interior, between semblant and reality that Luciana Rondolini installation Tiffany has to offer. At the foot of an ominous and realistic human figure drawn with graphite, whose face is covered in precious cut stones, lays a pile of fruits coated with fantasy jewels. Beneath it all, nothing is what it seems. It's the sense of smell that will reveal what the eyes can barely suspect. At some point last century, Tiffany was a style of decorative art, at another a deodorant brand. Other than irony, the work can be read as a way of understanding the meaning of ephemeral, yet it seems more disturbing as a comment referring to vanity and profound awareness towards identity, relating to Hamlet's "something is rotten in Denmark," with which he uttered his crazy truth about the court. Thank you for this invitation. You can catch out with everything I'm doing in my Instagram, or you can see more of my work in my page.